Coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. It's the end of the week. It's Friday. We got a lot to talk about. Big NFL action coming up this weekend. Of course, we had a heck of a game yesterday. I don't think things kind of turned out the way most people expected it to be, but I'll tell you that defense of Tampa Bay certainly didn't really live up to their expectations, that's for sure. And of course, the Dallas Cowboys, hey, they look pretty good on the offensive line. No running, all passing. So, you guys in the fantasy leagues, all you guys that have Zeke, I think you may have to rethink about dropping him down, dropping him out, or whatever. Because if yesterday was any indication of the way the Cowboys were going to be playing this season, I don't think Zeke's going to get to carry the ball too often. Anyway, thanks for listening. You're listening to us live right here from Denver, Colorado on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We're also podcasting, of course, podcasting on most of your podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify or even Google Podcasts or iHeartRadio. You can hear us just about any time of the day or night. However, if you want to hear us live, we come to you live every day, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the I-95 network. Also, Saturdays and Sundays, just a reminder for tomorrow, we're on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So we got a lot to talk about today. Some college football. We got one baseball game to tell you about as far as line movement is concerned. And, of course, that game is a game between the Los Angeles Angels and the Houston Astros. We're going to go into detail on that one as to how the pros are going, how the line movement is going as well. Two college games to talk about. Kansas against Coastal Carolina, Utep against Boise State. There, once again, we're going to bring you up to date as to line movement on those games, give you an idea as to which direction the pros are going as well. But as usual, and we usually start each show off with telling you what happened yesterday as far as sports were concerned and as far as betting was concerned. So, first of all, the NFL, big game yesterday, opening day. The Bucs beat the Cowboys 31-29. Ryan Succop's 36-yard field goal with 2 seconds left. But even at that point in time, if you had the Cowboys with 8 points in your pocket, 9 points in your pocket, depending on what point in time you got in. Some even had 10. At that point in time, you're sitting back and saying, hey, I'm a winner now. You're saying, regardless of what happens. Even if the game, which it couldn't happen, but if it would have ended up in a tie, 6 is the most points you could get, but there was no way there was going to be a tie in this game. Somebody was going to win it because of the way the numbers were coming together. There were 2 seconds left, like I said. But, of course, the Bucs, they did not cover. They were 9-point home favorites here in Vegas. They did go as high as 9.5 and 10 in some places. So it really depends on what time of the day, what time of the week you got into this game. Now, they only covered on teasers. If you tease down to -1.5 or better, you did okay yesterday as far as the teaser was concerned. They went over 52.5 points, so that's the story there as well. So the Bucs beat the Cowboys. Cowboys start at 0-1, but I'll tell you, they look pretty good. I think, the rest of the Eastern Conference has got to be kind of thinking about this one because they really look pretty good. Look pretty sharp as far as passing was concerned. No running. That's why I said if you're in the fantasy league, and you've got Zeke Elliott, you're in for some problems this year. At least off the first game, that's the way it looks, And they came very close to beating the Super Bowl champions, so I don't see why they would change their strategy. They did very, very well yesterday, except for a couple of things that happened. Otherwise, they did very well. In Major League Baseball, meanwhile, the underdogs went 5-3. 15-8 in their last 2 days. The underdogs have been really barking loud and clear. If you remember from the beginning of the season, if you follow the show, we're talking about that first month in April 1st on through the month, the dogs just went crazy. And again, you have to understand when a season first starts out, a lot of the sports books, they've got a lot of analysis, they got a lot of data coming in, but finally it all comes down to getting all that stuff together and coming up with a number. And to a certain degree, it's kind of a guess as well. So usually in the beginning of the season, the dogs usually do very well. Then, of course, as usual, in come the dogs. The favorites. August favorites. Unbelievable what they did in the month of August, okay? Now, so far now, the dogs look like they're starting to catch up now. 15-8 over the last 2 days. The Blue Jays, a plus 104 against the Yankees, winning their 8th straight game. So if you're into winning and losing streaks, as far as our situation is concerned here at the Zone, we say 6 is the number. So they are on a winning streak. And winning their 8th straight, biggest upset by the Rockies. Of course, the Rockies were plus 162 against the Phillies. The pros yesterday, we had the Phillies in that game. The favorites still lead, however, over the entire season, 59.3%. The unders went 6-2 yesterday. They increased their lead to 50.5%. So again, if you're into betting on streaks, maybe 8 now might be your number, okay? So this way you can be looking at the Jays as far as a losing streak is concerned. But we'll keep an eye on it, and when it comes to an end, we'll remind you of the swagger theory as far as betting losing and winning streaks is concerned. So this way, if you're still interested, we'll be able to get involved in there as well. So let's take our first break and we'll get that out of the way. When we come back, we got one baseball game to take a look at, and we have 2 college football games to kind of look up close and personal. That's going to be Kansas against Coastal Carolina, Utep against Boise State, and the one baseball game will be the Angels against Houston. So that's the story there. Let's get that break out of the way. And if you've listened to the show before, you know that we take 3 breaks within the show. Each one is of 1 minute duration. Yes, it is. So if that's the case, we'll be back in the zone in 1 minute. And here we go again. Welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live right here from the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado, on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcasts, such as Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. And we kind of refer to Friday as Fade the Public Friday, which means kind of whichever way the public is kind of going, you might want to start thinking about going the other way. In the meantime, let's talk about where the money is flowing in 2 of the upcoming college football games for tonight. Friday Night Lights, as they used to call them. 7:30 tonight. Kansas 1-0 at Coastal Carolina. also 1-0, but Coastal Carolina is a ranked team. They're ranked 17th in the country. Now, both of these non-conference teams are coming off their season opening wins. Kansas edged South Dakota 17-14, although they failed to cover because they were 11.5-point home favorites in that game. In the meantime, Coastal Carolina, well, they crushed the Citadel 52-14, covering as 33.5-point home favorites. They covered. This matchup opened with Coast listed as a 27-point home favorite. The public expects a blowout and is really happy to lay the points with Coastal Carolina because they're at home as well. However, as usual, despite all this action and its lopsided support that we've seen for Coastal, we've seen Coastal drop from being a 27 to a 26.5-point favorite, and also as far as down as 26 in some places as well. This signals that the pros are on Kansas taking all those big points. The Jayhawks, they have value. They're a contrarian play in a heavily bet primetime game, and it's in a buy low unranked road dog against a ranked opponent. So they're unranked, they're on the road, they're a dog, they're playing a ranked opponent. That bodes very well as far as the analytics are concerned in the direction of Kansas. Now, over the past 10 years, unranked road dogs against ranked opponents on Friday nights are at almost 59%, doing very, very well. Now, we could also be looking at a low-scoring game here, too. The total opened at 53, drops down to 52.5, despite the public really coming in on the over, okay? So once again, it means that the pros have a reverse line movement on the under, okay? Because correlative betting provides value as a big dog in a low total game, okay? Remember, correlative betting provides value to a big dog, which this is, in a low total game. 52.5, 53 for college football for a total, that's not very high at all. So in this first game at 7:30 tonight, national game, Kansas at Coastal Carolina, the pros are on Kansas. The general public very heavily in on Coastal Carolina. Meanwhile, at 9:30, you got Utep, University of Texas of El Paso. They're 2-0, playing at Boise State, who lost their first game. Now, Utep already has a pair of wins, okay? They beat New Mexico State 30-3. They were 9.5-point road favorites. And then taking down Bethune-Cookman 38-28 last week. Although they didn't cover in that game because they were 20.5-point home favorites. In the meantime, Boise State is looking to come back from a season opening loss to Central Florida, 36-31. Although they covered because they were 6.5-point road dogs in that game. So the line opened with Boise State, a big 27-point home favorite. The public is kind of split down the middle on this one. They don't know whether to take the points or whether to lay them. They're in that little doldrum there that they have. Because remember this, in a vacuum or in a perfect situation, a line shouldn't move at all if the tickets are even, and that's the way they're coming in. But we've seen Boise fall from 27 to 26 points as a favorite. This indicates that the pro money is grabbing the undefeated Utep team plus the points, plus 27, and they dropped it down to 26. It's maybe back at 27 in some houses, depending on where you're betting. Now, we've also seen some over money showing up, forcing the odds makers once again to adjust that total up from 55 up to 56.5. So in the game between University of Texas at El Paso, commonly known as Utep, at Boise State. The pros are on the underdog in this one as well. They love Utep in this game. As far as the first game was concerned, Kansas against Coastal Carolina. Once again, general public very heavily in on Coastal Carolina. They're a ranked team playing against an unranked team. Kansas won their first game. They are the underdog in this game. And of course, the pros are on Kansas in this game as well. So you have Kansas and you have UTEP as the games that the pros are going on, as well as in which direction, actually, all the analytics seem to be pointing in that direction as well. So let's get this second break out of the way. And when we come back, we have one baseball game to talk about. When we get finished with that, we'll tell you, bring you up to date as how that little system or method has been working so far. We're also going to be talking about NFL. We're going to take a look at where that early line movement is starting already as far as the NFL games are concerned this week. We're going to look at a couple of games that have really starting to get some action. We'll tell you about them as well. So let's get that break out of the way. And like we say always, we take 3 breaks of the show. This is break number 2. And of course, they are of 1 minute duration. So you can get back to us in 1 minute. And here we go again. Welcome back. You're in the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live right here from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and of course podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it, there we are. Anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. It's Friday. It's the end of the week, but it's the start of the big weekend. College football on tap for tonight. We have college football on Saturday. Of course, the NFL season really kicks in loud and clear this coming Sunday. In case you tuned into the show a little late, we had talked about 2 college football games on tap for tonight. Kansas against Coastal Carolina, and in that particular game, the pros are on Kansas, getting 26 points. Utep against Boise State, and that game, the pros are on Utep, and they're at 26 points in your pocket if you take UTEP as well. So that's the story about the 2 college games coming up tonight. In the meantime, there is still a baseball game. Baseball's still going on. It's going to go on for quite a while, although it's going to kind of be fading in the background a little bit. Yeah, during the week, maybe Monday through Wednesday or so, we'll have a little more baseball action. But, once you get into Thursday and Friday, you got to start looking at college games, and you got to look at the NFL. And before long, you're going to have the Monday night game and the Thursday night game, which is going to leave a less room for baseball as far as we're concerned. Meanwhile, in baseball, there is a game that was getting some action today at about 8 o'clock Eastern time, the Los Angeles Angels and the Houston Astros. The Angels are 69-71. Astros are 81-58. Now, this is an American League West showdown. It's one of the most compelling matchups for tonight's baseball lineup. Why? Because it's Ohtani Day. That's right, Ohtani Day. The Angels are largely out of the playoff picture. They trail the second wild card spot by 9 games, so yeah, they're out of it, okay? Meanwhile, the Astros, they lead the division by 5.5 games over that second place team called the Mariners, okay, up in Seattle. So in tonight's series game, the Angels coming with their two-way star, Shohei Ohtani. He's 9-1 this season with a 2.97 ERA. And the Astros, they counter back with their left-hander, Framber Valdez, who's 9-5 with a 3.08 ERA. As we look at the line in this game, it opened with Houston a minus 180 home favorite on the money line. Los Angeles, a plus 165 road dog. Now, the public can't believe they're getting such a big dog payout on Ohtani and are leaning toward the Angels. But as usual, we've seen this line move further towards Houston, moved from minus 180 up to minus 190 on the money line. Now, what this means is that there's some pro fade the trendy dog line movement. It's fade the trendy dog. In other words, the dog getting a lot of action. Fade means you stay away from, move away from it, okay? So they're on the Astros at home. Big home favorites. Minus 150 or more, coming off of a day off, are at 62% so far this season. Houston has value because they're a big favorite in a low total game. Total is 8 in this game. Again, correlative baiting says the fewer amount of expected runs scored, the more likely they're going to come from the better team. And of course, in this case, the better team are the Houston Astros. The Astros have also owned the American League West opponents. They're going at 66% within their division. Houston, 68-43 is a favorite, 43-26 when they're at home. Meanwhile, Los Angeles is 32-41 as a dog, and they're 31-37 while at home. The Astros are 8-4 against the Angels so far this season. So in this game around 8 o'clock Eastern time, the Angels, the Houston Astros, Ohtani's pitching today, so he's getting a lot of action because that's the way the general public goes. They bet favorites, they bet home teams generally, and they also look for big name players. And without a doubt, Shohei Ohtani is one of the biggest names in baseball this year, primarily because he does both things. He's pitching and he's a hitter also as well. He plays the outfield when he's not pitching. And he's 9-1. He has 2.9 ERA, so he's doing a pretty good job as far as pitching is concerned. So that's the story here. The pros, they're on Houston. The general public, they're on the Los Angeles Angels. And then once again, to recap the 2 college football games, Kansas against Coastal Carolina. The pros are on Kansas against Coastal Carolina. Utep against Boise State. The pros are on Utep. And in the one baseball game that we're talking about, Angels against the Astros, the pros are on the Houston Astros. Now, just to give you an idea, yesterday, with this little system method, whatever it is, where we actually follow which way the pros are betting, if you were betting with the pros, okay, you would have had 2 plays yesterday. The White Sox against Oakland, they had Oakland in that game, and Oakland won. Meanwhile, the Colorado game in Philadelphia, although Philadelphia was a big game, the big money game for the day, they picked Philadelphia. But Colorado came on and won that game after having a terrible homestand recently. Of course, they didn't play the Giants. That wasn't a pretty good idea there. But so they had 2 plays yesterday, 1 winner, 1 loser. Colorado was the big winner yesterday against Philadelphia, and Oakland was the winner against the White Sox. So going into this entire month so far, since September the 1st, we've had 17 plays, 9 winners. Again, we're at 53%. If you played every game that the pros picked in which direction they were going, whatever direction they were going, if you went with them, these are the numbers that you'd be dealing with right now. And of course, in that game last night in the NFL, the pros were very heavily in on Tampa Bay. And of course, that was a loser as far as they were concerned as well. So that's the story. It's a roundup of what we've been talking about the past couple of days. So it's now time to take that third break. Let's get it out of the way. And when we come back, we're going to talk NFL. There are some games that are on tap in the NFL that are really starting to get some action so far. The Denver Broncos against the Giants, the Vikings and the Bengals, the Jaguars and the Texans, and the Steelers and the Bills. So after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at these 4 games to see, because they're getting a lot of the pro money across the market. That's very important, not only in Vegas, but everywhere. Not everywhere, but in most of the places across the market. So let's get that final break out of the way. Takes 1 minute. After that, we'll be talking NFL football right after this. We're back again. Here we go again. We're talking about NFL football. Football this weekend coming up really big. I mean, you got a lot of games coming up this weekend, a lot of games to take a look at, kind of give you an idea as to what's going on. So anyway, thanks for listening. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, live from Denver, Colorado. Now, as you all know, the NFL, well, it is the king of sports betting because, it really generates the highest ticket counts. It's always the largest handle, and really the public really gets more attention. People don't pay that much attention to baseball games. Basketball gets some action. College football, college basketball gets some pretty good action. NFL, they are still the king of sports betting. There's so much public bias in the market, that's for sure. So going contrarian in the NFL can oftentimes be a real smart strategy because more often than not, the public loses. Okay, keep that in mind when you're betting as a contrarian, and we're very contrarian here at the Sports Wagering Zone. Okay. You have to understand something. When you're betting on the dogs, you're betting with the house. Okay, like yesterday, I'm sure the house just cleaned up all that money that was in on Tampa Bay, except for the few teasers that may have come about. They really cleaned up yesterday as far as the handle was concerned. Okay, so betting against the public. And if you do that, it only takes you just so far, though. You also have to be looking at which direction the pros are going. Because sometimes, even though they're contrarian most of the time when it comes to football games. There are times when they do go on a favorite because they're always looking for value. If they can get value, that's the way they're going. So this means that being with the pros, who have a really a long track record, I mean, decades, they win at a pretty good rate, and they also have the respect to the books. That's most important. We showed you. We talked with the various reports coming out from Chris Andrews over at the sports book. He comes up with ways of telling you how these things have come about. So you see the effect that the pros have on it. They do. There's no doubt about it. After all, the pros, not the public, move the numbers. They move the numbers to the pros because they have the respect of the pros. They won't win every time, remember that, but they win majority of the time. And over the long haul, somewhere about 59, maybe 60%. Okay. Now, in order to locate and see where that pro money is coming from, we're going to be focusing on these betting percentages, money percentages, and most importantly, the line movement, while also we're going to be looking at the historical profitable betting systems that are out there. So here are 4 games, week 1 of the NFL, that are getting real great attention from the pros. The first one, the Steelers against the Bills. This is the most heavily bet early game of the week. Odds makers open this line, Buffalo, 6-point home favorite. The public is all over the Bills. They went 13-3 last season. They won the AFC East. They reached the AFC title game. In the meantime, the Steelers, they finished 12-4, but they kind of, you saw what happened at the end. In the stretch, they kind of, weakened, got crumbled, or whatever you want to call it, going just 1-5 in their last 6 games, including that early playoff exit. They lost the first game, they were gone. Now, heavy public betting pushed Buffalo from being a 6 to a 7-point favorite. Now, once this line rose a full point, the pros pounced on Pittsburgh at +7 so far, dropping that line back down to 6.5. Pittsburgh is contrarian in a heavily bet game, and it also matches some profitable betting systems. In NFL Week 1, the big dogs, by being 6.5-point favorites or more, are at 61.5% over the past 10 years, okay? Also, keep this in mind. Mike Tomlin has been a great bet as a dog, going off at almost 67%. The pros have also targeted the under in this game, dropping that total from 50 to 48.5. The forecast for weather, 10 to 15 mile-per-hour winds at New Era Stadium, which really benefits the under. Meanwhile, Jacksonville against Houston. This is an AFC South matchup. It's a perfect storm of converging public perceptions. The Jaguars went 1-15 last year. Public loves them in this spot. New head coach, Urban Meyer, big name. That's what they go for. Top pick quarterback, Trevor Lawrence making his debut. And also, the public wants nothing. It wanted nothing to do with those Texans. They went 4-12 last year. They're not even going to have their star quarterback, Deshaun Watson, because of his legal problems, okay? The Texans have the lowest expected win total of any team. It's 4, okay? The public narrative centers on how terrible they're going to be this year, even worse without Watson. So the line opened with the Jags as a 2.5-point road favorite. The recreational bettors, they're hammering the Jags, which has driven the line up to 3. The pros see a perfect buy low, sell high situation. It's a contrarian spot, and they've jumped on Houston at the key number of 3 points, forcing the books to inch back a little bit down to 2.5. So keep in mind, divisional dogs are at almost 68% in week 1. Not only this last year or the year before, for the past 10 years. This is also a classic fade the rookie coach and rookie quarterback system. That's the way that's been called over the years. Meanwhile, Minnesota at Cincinnati, This is an interconference game. It's one of the most lopsided plays of the day. Minnesota's coming off a 7-9 season. The public sees a layup. The Vikings laying a short number against the Bengals team that went 4-11-1. The line opened with Minnesota, a 3-point road favorite. Roughly 3 out of 4 bets are laying the points with Minnesota. Now, this heavily lopsided betting has forced the odds makers to adjust the Vikings up to being 3.5-point favorites. Now, once the hook was available, the value-minded pros pounced on Cincinnati at 3.5, getting 3.5 points, which caused some of the books to adjust back down to 3. So that's what goes on. Essentially, we're looking at the Bengals as a super contrarian buy low home dog with a sharp line freeze and a reverse line movement. NFL Week 1 dogs, they're at 55% over the past 10 years. Week 1 dogs where the line stays the same or is inflated, like 3 to 3.5, they're at almost 58% over the past 10 years. So the final game we're looking at in the early action, the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants. Now, this game features one of the biggest line moves of the week so far. Okay, Denver's coming off a 5-11 season. The Giants went 6-10. This line opened with Denver as a short 1-point road favorite. They're playing in Jersey. The pros have hammered the Broncos, steaming Denver up from being a 1 to that key number of 3. Remember, key numbers are 3, 7, and 10. They also targeted Denver anything at 2.5 points or less. So if you can get 2.5 points or less, you're betting with the pros. Although we haven't seen any notable buyback on the Giants, when it did go to 3, the late Denver backers may prefer a money line play on the Broncos at minus 155 on the money line instead of laying the worst of the points. So that's up to you which way you want to go. One reason the pros may love the Broncos here, hey, Teddy Bridgewater. We saw the Broncos get steamed in a big way once Vince Fangio announced that Teddy Two Gloves is the starter over Drew Lock. Bridgewater, without a doubt, one of the best quarterbacks to back in the NFL in terms of betting. He's 35-14. That's 71.5% against the spread in his career as a starter. So that's kind of a look at the early times, trying to get an idea as to how it's starting to go, where the money's starting to flow. We'll watch these 4 games. We have only a couple more days left. We'll see what's going on with it. We'll talk more about it. We'll see anything else that comes into play. And then finally, Sunday morning, we'll give you the picks that the pros have along with the line movement, kind of give you an idea as to what's going on. Just remember, last season, for the first 4 weeks, the dogs were so dominant. Anybody that did some of the plays that we talked about last year did very, very well. So just kind of give you an idea, just let you know what's going on. Again, we try to give you as much truth as we possibly can. Not trying to show you how smart we are or how great we are or whatever. No, we're not great pickers. We're not doing the picking. That's not my idea. Would I be betting against the Giants this week? Hey, possibly. I'm a Giants fan. I'm like everybody else. I may bet on Denver very reluctantly because I love the Giants, but hey, that's the story. That's why you have to stay away from games, but include the teams that you like. So without a doubt, you won't see me betting this game at all. I very rarely bet the Giants unless they get into the playoffs or maybe into a Super Bowl. But other than that, I stay away from them, stay away from any emotion. Just follow the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Anyway, that's the story. We'll keep an eye on that for the rest of a few days. We'll be ready for you on Sunday morning. Remember, Saturday and Sunday, the show comes on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That's because we know the games start about 1. We want to make sure you have some information for you that you can put together with any late scratches, any late injuries or whatever that are reported, and make your adjustments at that point in time. In the meantime, once again, looking at the 3 games we talked about today. In college football, Kansas against Coastal Carolina. The pros are taking the 26 points and going along with Kansas. Utep against Boise State. Once again, the pros are taking those 26 points and going with Utep. And in the one baseball game we looked at, Angels against Houston, the pros are on the Houston Astros playing against O'Shea Ohtani. So give you an idea as to why that is where it's at right now. So anyway, thanks for listening. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. Okay, that's what they say. But the weekend is beginning. Okay, we're going to have college football coming up tomorrow. We're going to have the NFL, big schedule for Sunday. Okay, a lot going on. There's going to be a Monday night game in the NFL. And of course, we got the 2 college games for tonight. So once again, I really want to thank you guys for listening. Our numbers have been getting better. More and more you guys are listening to the show. We're getting a lot of emails. You seem to be very pleased with what we're doing so far. Hey, wait till this NFL season comes around. If this season is anything like what happened last season with all our contrarian selections, not that we pick them, but you know how we go, you'll do pretty good as well. So anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here, live from Denver, Colorado, on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. You can also podcast us. We're here. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it, we're all over. Thanks for listening, guys. If you're going to be betting tonight, hey, I hope you have a great, profitable day. Otherwise, I also hope you have a great Friday. Whether you're betting or not, enjoy the day. It's weekend coming up. Have some fun. We'll talk again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Goodbye, everybody.